I had no idea which route was best.
This guy's about to make 7 million online.
One of the best pieces of advice I could give from my own personal experience that I've learned has been extremely valuable on my path and journey is, but you got to be humble enough to realize you are going to need other people on the journey, and you've got to know how to interact, with respect and kindness and motivation towards those people that you're bringing on your team. Was that I wanted to build a family legacy. I've got a ton of fire in me, and I wanted to really pursue being able to build something with my family. The sales began to grow really quickly after like the first couple $100 days, from 1 million to 5 million, and that jump was catastrophic. So you realize, I realized how fortunate I've been. I've done my best job to stay humble, to realize that I don't know it all, that I need other people in the picture, that I want to continue to improve. At the right time, the right people, things will eventually fall into line. We don't deserve this. It just felt so great.
So just starting us off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. Where were you before you launched the Amazon world? What was your start like?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on, Connor. It's a real pleasure. It's a great honor to be invited.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. So before Amazon, I was working as an executive assistant, and that was actually under my father. So my father started a company back in 2003 in the food and beverage industry. So he basically began by manufacturing lemon and lime juice. And so having a Mexican and Hispanic background, he realized that there was a need in the market for really quality lemon and lime juice. So he decided to grab a buddy of his and begin the manufacturing process and begin to learn what licenses he needed. So he started that 20 years ago. I went to Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona, and I got a degree in business entrepreneurship. I knew I wanted to work with him basically my whole life because I really admired the guy. So I came back. Senior year, I actually came back, transferred all my classes online, and started working as his assistant. Nice. And then last minute, I was actually going to quit and go off into the world kind of on my own and start my own company. But I realized something really important, and that was that it takes typically about 15 years to create a household brand. Mm-hmm. And I recognized that if I wanted to go do something on my own, I'd have a lot of the pros of all of the freedom, but I'd have to put in those 15 years sooner or later to create something that's going to last. So I decided to stay within the company, and I knew what I wanted to do was online sales. So I took his products and I put them on Amazon. I chose Amazon because at the time they were the most reputable online platform to purchase basically anything from. So Amazon had a lot better reputation than, let's say, eBay. Not to knock eBay, they do amazing things, but it's just a different kind of a marketplace. Because we were in food, we wanted people to be able to trust what we were selling. So that's kind of how I got involved.
And around what year are we talking about right now?
So at the very end of 2017, so December 2017 was the first month that we actually got our first sales on Amazon. And it took me learning that Amazon platform is not easy.
Yeah, totally.
Especially when you go in cold feet, if you knew somebody like yourself or like Travis that understood the platform in any sense, then you've got a good shortcut there. You can cut down the time, but I didn't know anyone. So it took me about 5-6 months to understand what I was doing on the platform.
Totally. That's the thing with Amazon. It takes a while to get the hang of. Me and Travis are always saying it, having a community there of people who can support you along the journey. It's so important and so helpful when getting started. So props to you for being able to figure that out and get on launched in there. So I'm curious, your dad, your family, this business had been started for many years before you got in here and said, hey, let's put it on Amazon. What were you guys doing before that? Was this just physical business sales, or where were you selling on, and how had that business come along so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so basically my dad was able to get a couple contracts with some food service distributors. And so if you offer a good enough price and you make a food service distributor your priority, sometimes they'll give you a chance. Switching costs are always hard for anyone to change over from one service to another, or one product to another. That's a tough hurdle, but if you're willing to really go out of your way to do things other companies aren't, they'll give you a shot usually. So he's been selling to companies like Restaurant Depot, Cisco Foods, US Foods, and then he also realized that he could begin to sell to restaurant chains if he white labeled. And so he really wanted to continue to push his brand, but because, especially when you're starting a company, you need sales to pay off the bills. he decided to white label for a couple other companies, and it ended up bringing in the cash he needed to stay afloat and then to continue to invest into the company.
Totally. Yeah, that's super cool to hear. And so did the business start out with lemon juice, or like where did it begin? And I'm sure there was product expansion over time up until the point where you came in there.
Yeah. So it did. It started off with lemon juice, and then he quickly went into lime juice. One of the neat things that he did that was really different from the competition was he was basically one of the ones who invented what's called lemon blend. He actually ended up working with some of the regulatory agencies on what to call it. Everybody was basically putting the exact amount of juice and the exact amount of water together to make the strength of one lemon. And so it's considered 100% lemon juice, which just means it's the strength of a natural lemon. And so he invented a cheaper alternative, which was, well, let's just put in 75% the strength of a lemon and add extra water, and the taste is almost exactly the same. And so it was a cheaper alternative to kind of get into the market. And so that product really made him famous with a lot of the food distributors. They don't always need the full strength of, 100% juice, being used in a chicken recipe. The customers at their restaurants don't even know usually what's even going into the chicken. So they thought, hey, this is just as healthy and it's way less expensive. Let's give this product a go. They tried it in the recipes. They loved the way it tasted. And so that's kind of what he did. He went, lemon and then to lime.
Nice. Well, that's super cool to hear how that happened and how he kind of shaped a new product and even say market segment. And so it sounds like prior to you coming in, like a lot of the sales were to food distributors and businesses like that. Were you doing much like to consumer sales before you came in there and started looking at selling on Amazon?
No, so we were doing absolutely zero consumer sales. So
wow.
As far as he went, it was just white label, and some of his product development was companies actually asking him to make certain things. And so he just decided to do it to try to get the sales. But no, we really weren't going anywhere else. And I asked him about that. It's like, why aren't you trying to get into like retail stores or, rebrand and market your product and do commercials? And he was like, well, it's a totally different market. It's almost like being in a totally different industry. It's like selling tires and radio, dramatic as that sounds. But he said there's just different rules, there's different competition, there's different supply chains. And so he's like, this is the market I feel most comfortable in. So this is what I wanted to stick to. Sure. Coming out of school, I needed a challenge. We're young guys. We wanted the world. So I thought, hey, if he didn't want to do it, I'm going to give it a shot. So
totally. Yeah. Was he like, when you came to him, you're like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sell, like, was he receptive to that? You're like, hey, I'm going to go venture in this way with a business that hasn't been done. Like, how did he take to that?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So that was quite a conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of it came down to this. One, he's a true entrepreneur at heart. So he loves risk. So he was extremely happy with the fact that I wanted to grow the business or that I wanted to expand it. He was willing to take every initial risk to increase sales because sales basically proved that the risks had a return on their investment. So as long as sales were involved, he was good with it. So when we decided to kind of go down the Amazon route, he thought it was fantastic because it was going to open up a new sales channel. When I asked him to rebrand the product, he didn't understand, well, how am I going to see the dollars from that? So if it had a direct return on investment that he could understand, like a good businessman would, he was all for it because he knew the company had to grow. If the company didn't grow, it's technically shrinking or dying at that point.
Right.
So not everything was easy to get him on board, but the Amazon aspect definitely was.
Totally. So that's an important thing to think about when marketing a product like that. The way you market is probably going to be different from marketing to other businesses. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your process. So you have this idea, let's go sell on Amazon. What happens next? What did you have to do to get ready to make that leap and make that a successful leap at that?
The first thing I did was I had to learn the platform, and I had no idea which route was best. There's a couple different options you have, and figuring out which route is best is key, especially for your company and for your product. There could be a tremendous difference in the route that you choose to take. So I like to say that every successful person in business is lucky at some point. This is where we really got lucky. I had no idea what route was best, and I went ahead and just threw it on FBA. And that ended up being the route that was actually best in the end as we began to investigate the other routes and decided not to take. So that was a little bit of a, good luck stroke there, of good luck. But Yeah, it started with having to learn the platform. I did that by watching YouTube videos. Honestly, watching YouTube videos from guys like Travis.
Yeah.
And then I was in contact a lot with Amazon seller support. You know, their help pages aren't necessarily the most entertaining or exciting. And so YouTube is a much, easier tool to learn from. But those pages, well, you got to put in the reading. You got to read.
That's right.
You got to read and you got to listen, and then you can do it.
Sure. Yeah, that totally. And like every year there's more and more information that comes out, like pages like Travis's. That's what they're all here for, to help people like you when they're getting started their business, like really learn and get the hang of what to do and how to learn this new platform to sell on for their business. It sounds like you made the right decision here in choosing to choose Fulfilled by Amazon with your business. And so walk me through that first month. I imagine it gets off a factory run, you send a batch over to Amazon. What happens next? What steps do you take? Was there success right away, or did you have to like move around a little bit within the market?
That's awesome. So at the time, our category was pretty open. Amazon didn't have a ton of their own listings in the food and beverage category. They do now, so it's extremely hard to enter. But at the time, this was 6 years ago. So we got in at a great time. Amazon hadn't really capitalized on this category yet of food and beverage. And so as soon as we pretty much made our listings, did start to see some sales. The other thing that was great was we just had an awesome price. So when I went in with the momentum, trying to actually achieve something, not necessarily trying to get profit. And so that made a big difference when it came to setting the price. And so what I was actually going for were things like 100 sales a day or like 200 sales in a week rather than $1,000 in a month. And that really helped us. Now, I have to say again, I wasn't on my own. I had the backing and the support of a business with cash flow that can invest. So again, I was pretty fortunate in that situation, but that really helped. So we set our prices very low. We took almost no money initially, and that began to get the product to move. And so when you move the product, you start getting reviews. And when you start getting reviews, you start climbing that first page. And when you're on that first page, people are willing to give you a shot a lot of times from like the brand that they might already know, just because you're a brand that they've never heard of, and curious kind of led them to just give you an opportunity. We put up a couple different listings early, and I started seeing $30 in sales today, and I was just ecstatic because I was like, I achieved something. I got to take a break. I got to be happy about this. And then I saw it go to $100 a day, and then it was like $250 a day, and I was like, oh dude, we have something here. Like, we've got a deal working. So that's pretty much what I began initially. That took a couple months. Between, I would say, like $30 in sales a day to about $250 in sales a day. It was about a 5-month period from first sale to that $250.
And that momentum just builds over time. It sounds like, you took a strategy that a lot of us would say is the right way to go. Price low at first, build up the momentum, and then once you got that going, then you've got a product that's set on there. And so you hit that 250 mark a day. Is this all just off of the lemon juice, or do you have other products listed, or what was your starting place on there?
Yeah. So we had actually started with the lemon blend. So again, that's a little bit of a lower cost. Yeah, with the lemon blend. And so what I ended up realizing was, wait, hold on a minute here. This might be my dad's best-selling product, but I have to understand who's purchasing it. Mm-hmm. On Amazon, you're selling end user. You're putting products in people's homes, and people want absolute best of the best in their homes, and they wanted it at a good price. So I actually decided to close the listings, though they were finding sales, take the risk, and go with my gut in that people actually would want the 100%, the premium version over the blend. And it was a good decision. Yeah. It's something I talked about with my dad, and he supported it all the way. It made perfect sense. So we went ahead and began basically posting only our premium versions of all the products which we had, which initially was just lemon, lime. And then after a couple of months, I went ahead and put up our natural white vinegar. Then we also have a snow cone syrup line that we began adding. That came a little bit later. I think that came like 9 or 10 months after initial sales. The white vinegar started doing great though. That product is a product that a lot of people use. They use it for all sorts of purposes, use it for cooking, use it for cleaning. So we found a pretty big market there. That's one of our best sellers now.
That's great to hear. And so when you made that decision, and that's a big decision to make, you've got a product that's selling on Amazon, and making that big decision that it's better in the long run to take this down and focus on something else. Did you find you were able to just pick back up on that momentum? I mean, I'm sure you learned a lot from that first run that you did, or did it take a little bit of time to justify that decision?
That's a good question, man. These are awesome. You're great at this. Yeah, so it was scary because I had just accomplished something and I knew it was working, but I also knew, and a lot of this, a lot of business is just being honest with yourself. Usually, just choose not to because you're either afraid or you don't want to take the risk. But I knew that the end user wanted the premium product. I knew that if we were going to last on Amazon.com and if I was going to build an actual e-com brand, which was what all the YouTubers were basically suggesting to do, don't go for the sales, don't even go for the hero product. You have to build a brand if you're going to last online. And that was one of the truest pieces of advice I received. And so I knew if I was going to build a brand, we had to offer something that people were going to want to use again and again, and something that competition couldn't just easily beat out by adding one unique feature. I knew I had to do it. It was tough, but the way I saw it was if I actually want to last, with this e-com thing, which I did, I've got to do it right. And I've done that maybe 100 times over the course of these last 6 years, having to tear down I built up and rework the whole foundation of it.
And it sounds like that strategy has paid off for you, being where you are now with the business. It sounds like those risks that you took, although it might have that short-term consequence, it sounds like a lot of those ended up being worth it. I'm curious to see where the brand's at now, where you started out even before Amazon. Was this brand entirely crafted for Amazon by your direction, or was a lot of this there before? Like, I'm curious how much of this you changed or how much of this you developed through those philosophies you gained that you were just describing.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best pieces of advice I could give from my own personal experience that I've learned has been extremely valuable on my path and journey is your team really matters. And the reason why is because I don't have every skill set that I need to make a brand or a business successful. I may have a lot of them, or I may have a few, be super strong in those few areas, but you got to be humble enough to realize you are going to need other people on the journey, and you've got to know how to interact, with respect and kindness and motivation towards those people that you're bringing on your team. I took a big risk. I called my brother, who had graduated from the King's College in New York City at the time, and this was when we started doing about $500-$600 a day. And my brother and I, we absolutely are best friends now. We love each other. Growing up, we kind of always did our own things. And so I called him from California, and he was in New York, and I was like, hey, I've got a proposition for you. I think I found something special. Let me tell you about it. So I explained it to him. He was at a marketing firm. He had just been hired at a marketing firm at that time. And so he actually ended up flying home from New York, moving to California to join the Amazon train. He spearheaded the rebrand. So we actually hired a marketing agency that was run by my brother-in-law. And so again, it's your network, it's your team that really matters in the end. It wasn't necessarily super cheap, but it's nowhere what we would have paid if he wasn't our brother-in-law, because we were doing he was doing more work on the side really than through the business.
Sure.
And so those two guys, my brother and my brother-in-law, they completely spearheaded the whole rebrand and the whole design and the look for specifically Amazon. So we went all in on, hey, let's become a brand on Amazon. Let's not worry about trying to be on every other platform and be on every, page on the internet. Let's just get super strong at this. And there's enough customers on Amazon.com where if we can actually create something special, we'll get there. We'll get there in a couple of years. So yeah, they took that project on, and they blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
They did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, just looking at where it's at now, the branding looks incredible. You guys have really done a really good job putting that together. Walking us back here to that decision you made to launch those more premium products on Amazon and start to build that off, and those months and years that followed, I'd love to hear a little bit about the momentum there. Like, where did that go from there? What were those next milestones or roadblocks that you ran into as developing the products?
Yeah, that's so good. So, we've talked about momentum, and momentum is seriously so important. And momentum becomes really powerful when you understand what you're being pushed towards, or essentially being pulled by from, a distance a lot further out than what you are. And so, you have to have that crystallized in your mind. What is it that's actually pulling me towards this goal? Where am I headed? And so what I realized going into this was that I wanted to build a family legacy. And so my dad had started a company in which the name of our family was already behind, and I wanted to just continue it. So he had already actually put down the foundation. I wanted to just continue to build on top of it and improve it.
Totally.
And a lot of this actually comes through things like myths, stories, and fables. Those things are really powerful. So I actually ended up watching a show on TV about a group of families, and it's called The Men Who Built America. And I just learned. I learned from people like the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts and the Rothschilds and how they stuck so close together as a family and were able to just basically put together companies that almost control America now. And so it was amazing to see how special family legacy can be. So that's what I had in me. That's what I wanted to be expressed out of the talents and gifts that I had. My faith in God is also extremely strong. I'm a Christian, and I wanted to do, I wanted to work for his glory and make sure I brought him praise. So I had two very strong principles working in me. So when I was looking at the success on Amazon, at no point, I was happy and I was willing to celebrate, but at no point have I been satisfied. At no point have I been like, great, we did it. Let's go play video games. Because the goal that I'm aiming for is so lofty, and it's like above like just the seen temporal. And so I've got a ton of fire in me, and I wanted to really pursue being able to build something with my family. So yeah, when my brother joined, we decided to discuss the vision of the company, and we realized that because we're going more online, people online, they understand how to search things, which means they're going to look up ingredients. Because if you're using the internet, you're at least more savvy with being able to understand how to find web pages or addresses or, so on and so forth, which is actually very different than my parents' generation.
Yeah.
Both of my parents, they use the internet, but not at all like our generation. And so we understood the next generation is going to be actually interested in figuring out who we are, what we sell, what's listed on the label. And so we decided we have to actually give them the best. We can't get away with, hiding things on labels, big on things. So we're like, you know what? We're going for an absolute premium product. So we said the future of this brand is going to be going organic, non-GMO, and being in glass. And those are three big things that people are looking for in the food and beverage market. And like I said, that decision might seem obvious, but if it's not built on a really deep foundation, you're going to quit, because going organic and non-GMO and even being in glass is extremely difficult. So by God's grace, we ended up buying a food manufacturing facility. So at the time, we had just been using a co-packer for almost 20 years. We'd just been using a co-packer who worked exclusive for us. He did all the products we wanted, but we realized in order to cut costs and then in order to improve the quality and gain the certifications on the product we needed, we'd have to take a big risk. So in 2021, which was the year after COVID, which actually was the best year we ever had in business because people couldn't go to grocery stores, which was unfortunate, but they all went shopping online. So we couldn't stay in stock. I mean, we would send as much product as we could. We couldn't stay in stock. So we did great that year. We went ahead and bought this food manufacturing facility, and we did it with the inspiration, again, of being an organic, non-GMO glass product. And so we got it. I went from doing e-com to then reading about food safety guidelines and rules and having to study the FDA handbook. And my brother and I, we were put in charge of the food manufacturing facility. And so we hired a couple people, we purchased some new equipment, and we've grown a lot in this business. It's been a lot of fun. I'm kind of going back now to the e-com world, but purchasing the food manufacturing facility allowed us then to launch our organic apple cider vinegar. And it's also certified non-GMO. We have a couple more organic products that we're super excited about. We've developed them for over a year. They're coming out in probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So we're launching a couple more in about 2 weeks. They should be in production, being shipped out to Amazon.
Are those still a surprise up until then?
Yeah, we're kind of keeping them. Yeah, we're kind of keeping them a secret. But as soon as they drop, we're gonna be posting it everywhere. Yeah, they're products that go with our brand, and like I said, those are kind of my babies. Those have been for over a year, and put time in research and tried forecasting kind of where the future market was headed. So I decided to develop a couple new products that would fit that kind of that premium organic non-GMO glass mold. And yeah, so we're excited. 2 weeks, they should be up, man.
That's exciting times. I'd love to hear it. I mean, it seems like that's been going well.
Right.
I'd love to hear a little bit the past few years here. If you're able to walk me through like sales for the past few years, where have you guys been going? You said that COVID year was huge for you, as I can imagine, as it was for so many people selling online as people turned to the internet to buy their products during that time. I'm curious, how did that go and where did that go from there?
Yeah. So, okay, first year, I don't remember perfectly off the top of my head, but I think first year we did about $100,000. Like I said, the sales began to grow really quickly after like the first couple $100 days. And it's because of the algorithm. It's because our products kept ranking and we kept getting reviews. And like I said, we were fortunate enough not to have a ton of competition. But after that first year, I think we went, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that second year, so this would have been 2019.
2019?
Or 2018 to 2019. Yeah, 2019 to 2020. I think we hit $1 million in sales.
Wow.
And so we saw the sales go up very, very quickly. But from 2020 to 2021, so the year of COVID, we went from 1 million to 5 million in sales.
Wow.
Doing a couple $100,000 in sales on Amazon is not as difficult as some people might think.
Right.
Like, it might not be sustainable because it might all be ads, right? So that's a different question. But there's so many customers on Amazon. It's not that hard to generate sales rep if you got a decent product. Yeah, so that 2020 to 2021 year, from 1 million to 5 million, and that jump was catastrophic. So what happened was we didn't have enough help. So we needed people in our warehouse.
I was gonna say that's the other part, fulfillment. With such a big jump like that, it's like you gotta make sure you got the distribution chains going right.
Dude, absolutely. That's a great point. At first, we were ordering a couple hundred bags of plastic that would go around, a couple hundred barcodes that would be put on top. You know, our supply orders weren't huge. And then COVID, everything just went up tenfold. So we're ordering thousands of bags, thousands of barcodes, and we're printing thousands of pieces of paper and stickers and all these things. And so we also needed to hire. So we were fortunate enough, at one point, we had almost an entire fraternity from a university local in our area actually working in our warehouse because they all wanted summer jobs and we didn't find enough. So we had one guy that we grew up with that we knew really well, and he had come over and we're like, you know any more guys? And he's like, I can bring almost the whole fraternity because there's no jobs.
Oh
so
my gosh.
You know, we had to do the whole social egg and the mask and all these things, but we did it, you know, checking everybody's temperature at the door. And these guys came in. They just worked their butts off. It was such a fun environment that year. We just had, music blaring in this warehouse, and we're just, prepping products, putting it in boxes, having trucks show up. So yeah, that year was a lot of fun. And then the following years, we haven't grown like that since this last year from 2022. So yeah, 2022, we finished at 5.6 million. Wow. So we've grown a couple 100,000 basically every year. One year we actually went down in sales, but we went up a lot in profit margin. And so we kind of were playing with the price and seeing, where's the price point for people? What do they not want to pay for this product? What are they willing to pay? So this last year, we've done really good. This year, we're currently on pace to close at 6.3 and just shy of 6.4 million. So Lord willing, things keep going well. That's about where we're headed. So we've seen a lot more growth this year. And then hopefully with the launch of the new kind of organic line, hopefully these things do well and customers appreciate the value of the product. And we're able to maybe go from that, maybe 7.5 the following year. We'll see. We'll see what they can do.
Totally. That's great to hear you guys are continuing to move in that upward direction. And speaking of doing well on Amazon, you guys were recently selected to be a part of an Amazon advertising campaign where they featured you on several billboards. Yeah. How did that feel to get selected and kind of have this acknowledgement by the huge company that you're selling with?
Dude, it was awesome. Amazon has been a phenomenal partner to us. And I know not everybody succeeds on Amazon. And hey, the marketplace, only wants the best of the best.
Right.
But yeah, they ended up reaching out to us. And they basically have a couple public relations people that are like constantly looking for opportunities on how they can help strengthen small businesses. And they reached out to our company. They had, I think, I'm not 100% clear actually on how they found our company, but they're tracking everything. And so they reached out to us and basically said, hey, we have this opportunity for you guys. We were choosing 2 companies on Amazon.com that we would like to kind of put on full display. And we want to show people, how your story, your company, and one other company has been, has been tremendously helped by the platform. And so we were just ecstatic. As soon as we got that email, we were like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're doing well on Amazon, but we're not like top 1%, I'm sure, of all the, incredible brands that are on there. So we were super humbled and super thankful. So we immediately were just like, is this real? Like I was checking their emails, making sure it wasn't a phishing email. And no, they called me up and, we spoke. And so they basically wanted to know our story. So we got on the phone, we spoke through the whole story. They thought it fit great for what they were trying to help and kind of like help the world see that, you can be successful on Amazon. So they wanted how many facilities we owned and, how the operation worked. And then they basically said, look, we're going to come out there with a marketing agency that we're going to hire. We'd like to go to your food manufacturing facility. We'd like to do some commercials. Can we pretty much have the food manufacturing facility all day? And we were just like, well, yeah. I mean, we'll shut it all down and do whatever you guys want.
The Amazon calls,
like, man. Marketing. Dude, I mean, when Amazon calls, you know how this thing goes. Yeah, so they showed, this marketing agency showed up with about, I kid you not, with like 30 people. And we were blown away by the experience because you need one person to do the camera, one to do the mic, one to do all the stands, one to do the props, one to do the lighting. I mean, it was just crazy. Everybody does like one thing super, super professionally. Totally. So we had all these people in 10,000 square foot food manufacturing facility, which is mostly covered by equipment, so it's not like this huge place, but they pulled it off, man. Their team came in, we filmed a couple different things. They made a bunch of cool digital ads, and then they let me know, hey, like, sometime May, June, we're going to start running these ads on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And so we were ecstatic, and in a couple shots. And so I got to kind of recite some lines, how to do it. Honestly, I had to do it several times, and they're like, do it again, make your voice louder and all that. So nice. It was a really cool experience. Then they also selected us for their small business empowerment report. So I think the story kind of went around their people and, hey, we'll grab you guys. It's just a report, basically shows a couple different companies that are, kind of how they're doing on Amazon, how they're faring. And usually it's companies that are doing well, really interesting or neat products or a good niche. And so, they came and they took a bunch of photos of our family. And so my dad, my mom, my brother and I were, we got to kind of be in some photos with their products and stuff. So that was super fun. And we kind of got to know their team a little bit. And they did that with several different sellers. So that wasn't just two, and it wasn't just us. And the billboards thing was crazy. So last minute, we didn't know anything about the billboards, but last minute, we got an email from one of the representatives basically saying, hey, this is the start date for the ads. And we also got 2 billboards up for you guys for, almost like 2 months or something. And we were just like, what? Like, you guys got billboards? They sent us the billboard artwork, and we were just like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I mean, we don't deserve this. Like, it just felt so graced. And so we went down to downtown LA where one of them was, and it was this massive digital billboard. And so my whole family and I were kind of pulled over on the side of the street waiting for it to pop up, and it popped up, and we all started going crazy, cheering and stuff. Yeah. And they put one locally right by City of Industry where we're located.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, that must feel good to hear. You definitely get some sort of validation from the sales and stuff, but getting that sense of acknowledgement from Amazon themselves and getting to see yourself on the billboard, it's like an acknowledgement of all the work you put in and seeing where that's got you. That must be a great feeling to have. I know you spoke on a little bit earlier about these new 2 products you got coming out on Amazon in the next couple weeks, but I'm curious where you see as the next place for the business. I know you mentioned before when you started this out, you saw this as we solely want to focus on Amazon, but have you looked into expansion elsewhere with this line that you developed, or just what are those next things?
Yeah, so another good question. So for sure, I think we are now really focused on the brand. And so the next step for us, which we're beginning to investigate a lot more into, is taking the brand into retail. Yeah. And so I kid you not, the absolute best video I've seen on all the interwebs, specifically YouTube, has been Travis's video in which he brought on, I think his name's Dr. Mark Young. They do a video where this guy, founder of Jekyll and Hyde Labs, and unbelievable video. And it was a Travis's event. And I'm sitting there, I'd seen the whole thing 2 times, and it's a long video, but I've watched every detail, taking notes. And this guy gets up there and just explains how a brand goes from an e-com brand to a retail brand. And there's a lot to it. It is not an easy process. And so that's kind of the direction we're headed in now. We recently hired a position at our company, really awesome guy with an incredible skill set to kind of spearhead that project. And so him and I are working together on a lot of it. I'm still focused a lot on maintaining the e-com stuff. And so he's kind of dealing with brokers and kind of, getting his feet wet. We've had some people reach out to us as well and, offer us contracts and things like that for products and things, but we're not totally sure who to say yes to because we don't have a ton of experience. We're kind of into like the art and consulting phase of like, okay, I think it really matters how we take the next steps. So let's take our time. Be willing to investigate this. How do we want to present ourselves to retail? And, who knows? We may be able to even get into one retail chain. And honestly, that'd be great with us because we kind of like moving a little slower, just make sure it's stuff and building up from there.
Right. In a lot of senses, it's just like repeating it all over. It's like entering a whole new medium again, having to figure it out, taking those steps. At least this time, it's probably like, it's not as big of a rush. It's like you've got Amazon going and it's like you can take this a little slower. And as you said, figure out what's more strategic for what you guys, what fits the brand and what works. So
absolutely.
So I know you've said that like it hasn't really felt as you've gone through it, like there's a milestone you've been going for as you've been going and it's more of a big picture thing. But say looking back on the last, I guess it's almost 8 years now for you working on this company, being a part of it, growing to where it is. Looking back, how does it feel to having grown that? What do you feel like are the biggest things that you've learned or can see just looking back as on your company that you've grown?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Initial answer to this is this is where my faith really comes into the picture. And, when I was 23, I really didn't know what to do with my life. And so I really cried out to the Lord. I depended on him for help. And I really felt that this is kind of the road that he opened up for me to walk on. So I walked on it with faith and confidence. And like I said, I wanted to bring him glory. Really, that's my purpose for living. So, I think looking back, you realize, like, I realized how fortunate I've been. Yes, I've been creative. Yes, I've been daring. I've been as calculated as I can be. You get lucky. You get lucky if you work hard, and so I've done my best job to stay humble, to realize that I don't know it all, that I need other people in the picture, that I want to continue to improve. At the right time, the right people, things will eventually fall into line. And I haven't given up. There was a lot of mornings where I was waking up and I was at the warehouse at 4 a.m. because my dad wouldn't approve, 2 or 3 more hires to help prep product. So I'm like, okay, it's me, dude. Like, I'm not the big CEO. I can't have that self-identity on me or it's going to hurt the business, So I was like, no, I'm a guy who's trying to achieve something. So I have to be willing to do whatever it takes. So yeah, there was a lot of mornings where I had to put that work in and, I'm thankful that I had the right attitude about it because I think that that's really helped this business, this brand, this idea flourish and kind of blossom. Having a right perspective about yourself and who you are and who you're not, that really helps. Like, I really don't see myself as, some super successful entrepreneur. I really don't. I see myself as someone who's like literally has so much to learn and has been able to build something with a good team. And has a lot more to go. Life is a lot more fun that way as well. Yeah. So that's how I ended up, in a phone call with guys like you. I am thankful. I'm super thankful. But hey, business is a Shark Tank, as we know. Yeah. And so you can't let up.
Totally.
I'm grateful, and we celebrate milestones in the end of the year. Sales going up and things. Mm-hmm. But hey, man, take our foot off the. There's other young, hungry, people out there that are trying to build a similar business or, a similar business model. You're competing every day, and you gotta accept that. You gotta get out there and be fun every single day. So I've really enjoyed the process.
Yeah. And that's definitely a great mindset to have to ensure your success. That learner's mindset, the mentality to never take your foot off the gas and just keep going at it. I'm sure that's going to bode you well. Just going back here, you've grown since launching your product on Amazon to now in 2023, growing it to nearly 6 million annual sales. How, and before that, you launched on Amazon, your business had no e-commerce presence. How much has this grown the business as a whole? Does this make up the majority of the business now? Has it doubled in size, or what has this meant for your family business as a whole?
Yeah, that's another great question. So yes, basically we have nearly doubled in size.
Wow.
So it has been a huge opportunity for growth and sales and more profit, which allows for more reinvestment into the company. And when you have an opportunity to continue to grow on a platform like Amazon, you're actually motivated to continue to reinvest into the company because you kind of have more things to continue to reach for. A lot of companies, they stop taking risks, and so they stop reinvesting into their company. But you actually have to take the risk in order to want to continue to reinvest into the company, or you're just going to feel like you plateaued and reinvestment don't make any sense. So if you're not reinvesting, it's because you're not taking risks, So we've continued to reinvest in this project, and yeah, Amazon, I mean, they're providing us, I like to say, the stepping stone. They're providing us with the stepping stone of becoming, a very small company to becoming, Lord willing, one day, a company that's known around the United States very well. And, we got our juice in everybody's fridge. That'd be awesome. They've provided that stone for us to kind of step on, learn from, and then kind of, take an overlay of the land and the rivers that are left to cross and then go ahead and continue to jump forward. So we couldn't be more grateful to them. They've been instrumental to our growth. I mean, they helped me professionally understand things like listening to feedback. I mean, they'll send you dings and notifications and all kinds of things when you get a bad review or someone's complaining.
Yeah.
So, that taught a lot. They care about that. And that means I should care about that because if they do and they're as big as they are, I to think that I don't have to listen to customer feedback. So I read every piece of feedback that comes in.
Wow. That's dedication.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I learned so much that way. So,
totally.
Yeah, they've helped our just about 2x.
That's great. That's amazing to hear what you've been able to do, even in such a short time period, by utilizing what's there and what your family had to begin with. But yeah, this has been super great having you on. I appreciate you answering all these questions for me. Your story is just incredible. Hearing how you were able to grow your business like that, and now just go ahead with your Amazon campaign and get featured so broadly like that. And it sounds like you've got some exciting things coming in the next few months and years. I'm excited to see where it goes with your business.
Hey, thanks, Connor. Yeah, man, I really appreciate you reaching out. Love that you're doing this show. I'm sure you're gaining tons of insights. And like I said, thank you for having me on. It's a real joy to be here.
Of course, man. And I look forward to hearing about your product launch in 2 weeks and more about your business as you grow.
Dude, 100%. Can't wait.